Opportunities at the Prison. Before we get to the talk, though, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the MIT Club of Boston. We're an independent nonprofit. We're member supported, volunteer run. Mel and I are both officers. Melissa Webster's the one doing a lot of the registration out there. Both officers of the organization. And we work for MIT alumni, students, affiliates, and families living in the Boston area. We support social networking, educational and service opportunities in the Boston area for the MIT community, and almost all of our events are open to the general public. So if you like, you can check our website at Boston. It's boston.alumclub.mit.edu, and your link, for most of you, if you registered, that was the club site, so you can always go back there. I just want to tell you some of our upcoming events. We have a maple sugar party at Drumlin Farm on Sunday, March 17th, March 20th. It's really adult-oriented, preparing today's children for tomorrow's creative society, and that's at the Discovery Museum in Acton, so it's more of a K-12 oriented thing. We have the first robotics competition. The Boston Regionals is being held at the BU Aganis Arena, and that's March 23rd, and the MIT Club of Boston has been holding a reception there in the basically Saturday morning, and we offer back private pit tours so you can see how they build these robotics. I don't know, if you haven't gone to one of these first competitions, they're very interesting, and it's a great place to see young engineers at work. For those of you who missed it, we're going to see the Book of Mormon at the Opera House in April, but that's sold out. But if you sometimes you can get some good deals through the club. On April 16th, we're going to have a Boston Seminar Series. That's more of the traditional type of thing that we do, and that's it'll be a lecture by an MIT researcher, and we're not quite sure, we haven't booked the lecture because we just got the venue at a late date, but that'll be April 16th. On April 17th, on Wednesday, there's a science trivia challenge, and that's part of the Cambridge Science Festival, which is a big event going on here. May 11th, we're having a gala to honor the new president of MIT, Raphael Wright, and that will be at the MFA, and we only do that like every 3 to 4 years, so this is going to be a big event for us. And then on May 28th, we have the annual meeting, which will be held at the Broad. So you can just keep checking our website, you can see, and things are open to the public, so if you want to come, you certainly may. But I'm excited that we had the opportunity to sponsor this event, this panel on careers. We usually host talks by MIT researchers on energy, biosciences, black holes, and other scientific subjects, so this is really very different for us. And it's about improving the life of people leaving prisons, and it's important. And the reason we got involved was that I'm a friend of Dr. Sharon Seivert, and I was talking to her about my 24-year-old nephew from Wisconsin, and he'd served a short period of time for drug-related offense, and he was on parole, but he couldn't get a job, he couldn't, he applied places, but whenever, he checked out, he had troubles, and he's only 24, and, it's a minor offense, but he's lucky he lives with his mom, and, he's okay, but I know that there's a lot of other people who don't have it so easy, and it's a problem that, as a nation, we've done a very poor job of making a decent life for a lot of our citizens. So I want to thank you all for coming here, and I'd like to introduce our moderator. And I hope that afterwards you can stay. There's going to be, looks like there's plenty of food left over, so if you're still hungry afterwards, please help yourself. And I'd like to introduce our moderator, Dr. Arlene Reed-Delaney. So she's a practicing psychiatrist and the leader of Opportunity Knocking, a new career, jobs, and entrepreneurial program for ex-offenders. Dr. Delaney has served on the New York State Board of Regents and Notre Dame's Board of Trustees. She is currently working closely with the Committee of Friends and Relatives of Prisoners to establish sustainable living wage businesses in underserved communities that are owned and operated by former prisoners. So please welcome them.
Thanks once again for your coming to listen and share your experiences as well. I'm a board-certified psychiatrist, and for many years, about 15, I used to do psychiatric evaluations on kids who were in detention, both boys and girls. And over the years, I saw the names of many of the kids that I saw going from, detention center, foster care, and often prison or something worse. I became sick at some point in time, and I was on dialysis, and that's when you have time to sort of reflect. And I know that people who have tried to get work as prisoners have had difficulty. So what can we do? What would make the difference? Because there are lots of reentry programs, but it still isn't meeting the needs. So Sharon and I, through our work with on the Compass course, started doing something in the high schools. And this we transferred onto to working with the prisoners. I'm usually, psychiatrists listen, they don't talk. So if I'm having difficulty, please forgive me. But I'm really trying to tell you the story of how it started, which was basically, we saw that there was a need, that the kids weren't really prepared. We worked in 2 schools, Hyde Park, the engineering school, and Community Academy in Roxbury. And many of the boys had this attitude: what do I need to learn? I'm going to be either dead or in jail by the time I'm 24. And they absolutely believed it. And say, okay, so now they're out of jail, and they're trying to look for work. Well, they would have had difficulty before they went, but now they'll have even more difficulty now with this record. So the idea that I shared with Sharon was, what if we created businesses that were Corey friendly? I did work, I called the city of Boston. They gave me a list of places that said, we hire. I called 30 of them, and they all said, somebody else, they retired, someone else, we don't do that anymore. And then I checked comments online of former prisoners, and they would say things like, well, they hired me, but they let me go really fast. So why not create businesses for them? And I had the good fortune of having a member of the family by marriage who knew Glynn Lloyd. Yes, and I told him about the idea because there was a really nice article about him that he was Corey friendly, and so he was just like the perfect person. So we're here today to really talk about the numbers and how we can change the recidivism rate from 43% in 3 years. And when people, the longer they're in prison, the greater the recidivism rate. So there's no preparation. So we would like to have training before, ideally while they're in prison or while they're in halfway houses. And then the next step would be for the person to know that there's a job waiting for them. That's the dream. And what we need are investors in the dream. And let's see, what else would I like to say? The jobs that we have looked into have been urban farming, auto repair, food truck, construction, landscaping, laundry, cafe. All of these things with some addition. Some people have some money, but other people will need assistance in making it happen. The obstacles to recidivism are lack of housing, lack of money and lack of family support, sometimes because of legal issues. But basically, this is where we're going to begin. How are we doing for time? Okay. Okay. The next thing that I'd like to mention is that I'm working with Canadian friends and relatives of prisoners. And what they do is they provide services for ex-prisoners so that the family can visit them while they're in prison and then help them get adjusted once they leave. But all of this is just part of a big picture. But unless there are jobs where they can be gainfully have living wage that's sustainable and which they have ownership in, so that they're invested in it, it's only temporary. And although grants are wonderful, they come and go. So if the community can have a form of partnership with this, it can really make a big difference. And I've talked to banks, and banks say, I think it was Enterprise Bank, mentioned that they would do a loan for no interest loan for 84 months if they approved of the project. So if the community would raise some of the money and the bank would raise part of the money, half part of the money, I'm sure that together we might be able to make a difference. So now I'd like to introduce the second person who is used to speaking and enjoys it. And her name is Sharon Seivert, and she's president of Core Learning Services, and she does executive coaching, which means when people are downsized and they're at a higher level, they need to reorient themselves. And she, using the program of the Balancing Act and the Compass course, applies it. Let's see. I mentioned that we used our program in the high school, and it was very well accepted. That what happened was we had 60 kids, and we didn't have work so well. The whole school, so it was like we had all the 10th graders, then we had all the 11th graders, and we believe in doing training the teachers. So it isn't like we do the work. We want you to know how to do it yourself so we sustain it. So with that, Sharon, it's all yours.
Thank you. Arlene has been working on this project for probably over a year. It's wonderful to see sort of a benchmark of where we've arrived and the people who become interested in the efforts that we're putting out. Now, this room is filled with experts, and one of the things I would like to do before I begin is to go around the room, and I would ask you to do like a 5-second introduction of yourself, because I know that you are going to want to talk to that person over there by you as soon as you hear who they are and what they're doing. So part of what we have done with Opportunity Knocking is we've actually become a hub, because we have seen what other people are doing. We go, wow, this person's doing a great thing. We didn't know that, and the next person doesn't know about the next person. So we want to take care of some of that right now. So if you can simply give the name and your title, where you're from, and if that doesn't explain why you're here tonight, you can give a different sentence to that. Okay, so I'm going to actually introduce Malik and Robert later, so they'll tell you more about their stories. So can we just start here, about 5 seconds, your name and where you're from, and if you want exercise, because you didn't get to the gym tonight, you can stand so everyone in the back of the room can hear who you are. So just your name and where you're from.
Hi, my name is Jessie Canalese. I'm a social worker.
From where?
I am from
Okay, great. A little bit louder.
I'm Christina Nelson, and I'm here because I'm a member of the MIT Alum Club.
Great.
I'm Nancy Lopez. I'm from Newton, and I work at the House of Correction. I run mental health for the inmates.
All right, great. Yes.
Maria Marasco, I'm the job developer at the Barnstable County Correctional Facility.
I tell you we have experts in the room, right? Okay.
Jackie Cooper, MIT alum and owner of financial institutions.
Great, all right. Yes, great.
I'm Lynette Little, I'm a social worker with the Public Defender's Office.
retired alumni, and I could use more water.
Yeah, okay.
Melissa Webster, MIT alum.
You know, Lina, right?
Met Lina, okay.
I'm Mike Plusha, MIT alum and spender, so.
He's the bridge person.
Good evening, I'm Bill Linehan. I work for Spectrum Health Systems, reentry planner at the Northeastern Correctional Center in Concord and Boston pre-release in Rosendale. I also retired from the State Department of Career Services, which is all about placing people in jobs.
Great. MIT alum. Steve?
Mandy Malone, I'm a prevention counselor with Spanning here in Boston.
Thank you.
My name is James Crawford. I do community organizing with reentry in Washington, D.C. I'm looking for a job.
Jack Burke, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, marketing communications, friend of Glenn Lloyd's.
My name is Kevin Thomas. I work for the United States Probation Office, the Middlesex Sheriff's Office, Berwick House Correction, for all 18 Massachusetts State correctional facilities, and I'm also an ex-offender.
Excellent, and the very back of the
Mark Ward, Road to Redemption Assistant.
Yeah, okay.
Dallin Simon. I work with Arlene. Hope to be working with you too, Sharon, in the future, and Kevin with motivational speaking.
Excellent. Okay, why don't we go, actually, let's go down the middle here, right? You two here?
Tom Fan. I'm a legal assistant for a law office in Dorchester. In the past, I was an intern investigator for the Public Defender Service in DC.
Wow.
I'm Caitlin Koga, and I'm here because I wrote my thesis on the effects of writing programs in prison and was able to visit some of the college programs through Boston University and was really impacted by seeing classes there.
Very, very good. Okay, and come on down here. Andrew?
Andrew Farrell, MIT alum, and a web programmer at the Startup Accelerator, Mass Calendar.
And Andrew's going to be putting together the website for Opportunity Knocking. Okay, front row, then we'll go back to this part of it.
My name is King Cunningham. I'm an organizing director with the Boston Workers Alliance and also a friend of Glynn, Lloyd, and Arlene.
My name is Sumi Ali. I'm the chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee at the Boston Workers Alliance. I'm also an ex-offender. I'm a friend of Malik's.
Excellent.
My name is Chuck Winder. I'm the executive director for the Boston Workers Alliance. We started recently following a good and long legacy of Aaron Tanaka, our founder.
Thank you. And we have made connections with Boston Workers Alliance for that program. Okay, yes.
My name is Rob Farrell. I'm the Chief Deputy Clerk of the United States District Court here in Boston. Hello.
What is on that?
I'm Amy Robinson. I'm a law clerk for Judge Sorokian, who's a federal judge in Boston. He runs 2 reentry court programs through the court.
Hi, I'm Kit Hayes, and I'm representing several people from a social justice group at the First Parish Unitarian Universalist Church in Arlington.
Peter Pavlina, MIT alum. I'm in the investment business, but I'm interested in the overall prisoner and life after prison.
Hi, I'm Jess Rooks. I have spent the past 20 years of my career working in prisons, jails, and reentry organizations in New York and Northern California, and I'm an accidental entrepreneur.
Wonderful. Okay.
I'm Alyssa Garish. I work for Spectrum Health Systems, running the Reentry and Employment Readiness Workshop at MCI Norfolk and Bay State Correctional Center.
Emily Woodward. I also work for Spectrum, doing reentry as well. I work on the Bridgewater complex.
Back row.
Jack Hall, MIT alum and relative of a former prisoner.
Thank you.
Steve Stafiri, I'm a carpenter. I'm 4.5 months out of incarceration. I know Alyssa, and I just went through her class. So somebody better hire me in this room.
That's why we're making the rounds here. Yep, making the rounds. Thank you.
My name's Jim Higgins. I'm stepdad to an ex-offender.
And I'm Kathy Higgins, and I'm the mom of this ex-offender.
I'm Roberta Hall, wife of an alum, and aunt of Stephen.
This is my family.
Yes, I can see that, I can see that, excellent. Great family support, huh? Okay, when we start with that?
Ian Carpenter from Woburn, Massachusetts. I founded and run a software company in Woburn. Just looking to see how we might get a higher thanks to them.
Ready to pay attention? Okay, good. This is why I wanted to do this. Okay, great. Okay, why don't we do this back row and circle on down, all right? Can you start, please?
My name is Deborah Sharp. I work at Boston University in financial assistance, and I do a lot of counseling for students who are on their way to prison education.
You what?
Prison education.
Fabulous, okay.
Lloyd and Clark, and I've been about 20 years of community development and consulting.
Yeah, 20 years of community development myself.
Joanne Metzger, MIT alum, entrepreneur, and I like to help startups.
David Ludlow, I'm a support member of the Boston Workers Alliance, a fantastic Boston Workers Alliance, which is making a huge difference. People getting out of prison and not going into prison. And I started a meditation program at MCI Concord.
Wow, brilliant. Okay.
Hugh Dell, I work with Arlene and Sharon, and they'll help me.
My name is Ed McPherson. I'm an MIT alum. I am the founder of Proactive Philanthropy. We're a nonprofit organization that creates funding by accepting surplus capital goods from corporations. We sell them and issue grants with the proceeds.
Excellent.
My name is Shannon Fahey, and I work in the DOC's Reentry Service Division since August. So I'm new.
She's a newbie. Be kind, yes.
My name is Jen Porter. I'm an MBA student at Harvard, looking at creating a new model of prison focused on education and reentry.
All right.
I'm Lenore Meyer, and I've been working with the Reentering Citizens, which is my new term. I would like to really learn how to be what I would call, too, a recovery coach, because I think sometimes all of you in this room are doing that in some form or another. I work at MCI Shirley in the Commonwealth, and I do work with the reentry and employment.
Okay, thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Dan Handel and I work in renewable energy consulting and I want to be an entrepreneur.
Excellent.
I'm Caitlin Johnson. I also work in energy consulting,
Yes.
friend of an MIT alum, and just very interested in the topic.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'm Steve Isabel, and I too am an MIT alum, and I too am interested in the topic.
I'm a friend of Steve's. My name is Brian Roberts. Good evening, everyone. It's an important topic, so when Steve invited me, I jumped at the opportunity to attend to learn more.
My name is Jim Gamble. I'm an MIT Sloan School alum. I too think this is an important public policy and topic. I've been involved in politics recently, and here in Massachusetts, the DAs and sheriffs are elected at the county level. It's a way to sort of get these topics as part of the political conversation.
Okay, so now you know why I wanted to go around the room. We saw the people signing up for this event, and we knew you had to meet each other. So when we break, you can make a beeline for the other people that you want to speak with. So, as Arlene said, I'm Sharon Seivert, and I'm the author of the Balancing Act, and this is the program that we use when we went into the urban schools, and my eyes were certainly opened in terms of the problems that we faced at that time, and the kind of conveyor belt that Arlene talked about in terms of these young people being on. So we gave you handouts, so we don't need to belabor the point. You can see some of the data in terms of the statistics that we have. The youth, pass their MCATs, have better attendance, all kinds of major indicators. And when we do the opportunity knocking program, we're going to have lots of measurements in place because we know we're really quite confident that this is going to work. We want to be able to measure and improve the efficacy of this for potential funders as we go forward. So after Arlene and I began working on this one day, she suggested that she would like to do this ex-offenders, and I can remember the moment it happens. I tell people it was like a lightning bolt hit me. I just knew this was so important. I knew this was some of the work that we were meant to do in this life. So now we've launched Opportunity Knocking, and what I'm particularly enamored about with the program that we're trying to develop is that it is a systemic approach to the problem. And I know that being here in MIT that I would have some warm response to that. We really want to take a systems approach to the problem. We have three parts of the program. There's an A, B, C part of the program. The A part of the program is the career training. It's coaching, groups, individual work, mentoring with people, and buddy systems, materials that will be tailored through feedback from the participants so that it fits this group better than it maybe fits the entrepreneurs and career changers that I work with in other segments. That's the A part. The B part is the coalition that Arlene's been working on for the past year to find employers who are going to be friendly to hiring people. And and Glynn is here as one of those representatives today. The C part of the approach that we're taking is the entrepreneurial piece. And we have an entrepreneurial coaching process that we use. And I know from working with really high-level people over the decades that sometimes the best people can't get jobs because they're too special in some way, or they've hit a glass ceiling, or they're just unusual in their skill base. And so sometimes they have to go out and create the work within companies, entrepreneurial, or they have to go out and do their own business. And even though that sounds risky, long-term is probably the best possible thing we can do. And I just read a statistic that this is now the entrepreneurial generation, and 54% of youth coming out now want to start their own businesses. And I think it has to do with what's shifted in our economy and the fact that all these little seedlings are coming up now that some of the big trees are falling. So the program that we do, the part that I'm mostly in charge of, the training for the A and the C parts of this, is based on the 5 elements, which is an ancient system centering 4 directions. It looks at, it's a model that's been used around the world to create health, well-being, and balance. It's a very, very simple system. As a matter of fact, it's probably one of the very first systemic approaches to human problems that was ever invented. Very, very simple and easy. So what we have people do is when they come in, the very first thing that they do is we stop. Okay? And we have to sort of reset what they're thinking about. We have to reset their expectations. We have to reset what they're looking at. We have them look at their core values, their identity. What are the gifts that they were born with? What were the things that they liked to do when they were early, when they first noticed it? Because we don't want them to go into jobs. We want them to go into jobs that suit. And we want them to be very particular about that because that's where the brilliance is. That's where they're going to succeed. And that's true for my private clients and it will be true for these people. So first we have them start, help them develop their intuition. We have them, and when they develop their gifts, they're going to be feel more stronger about their self-esteem. Once we have that foundation for them, we then have them look at their vision. They generate lots of opportunities. We raise their hopes, reduce their fears. The third step we take is from all those possibilities they've generated, then we get the fire in the belly, so they have a mission, they have goals, and they're going to go out and they're going to do it. The fourth step is that we get people in their network on their team, and we get more people on their team, and we get them so they're not doing this new initiative alone. And the fifth step is they really have to work the program. They have to do things one step at a time. They have to build their structure. They have to develop their new work habits, and they have to move on from that. So that's the approach. And when that happens, what we have seen is sometimes this synergy. Sometimes these things, you can get these unusual expectations. People leap over where we think they were going to be. We have surprises. People come in with surprises with really great results. So that's the synergy that can happen from this 5-step process, which is known throughout the plan. So the other thing that we're looking to do from a systemic approach is we want to affect the families, the communities. We want to generate economic revitalization in these communities because we want these people to bring their businesses into the communities. And we know that participants in all these programs bring whatever they learn home with them. And so we get ripple effects that way. The other thing we want to do, and you can see this from what's happened in the room, is that we want to develop partnerships with other people who are doing great work. Because we know there are people out there who are doing great work, and we want to help leverage that work and make connections for all kinds of people. And the last thing that we do is that we're going to be training the trainer on this. We're going to be developing facilitators who will be teaching this program and rolling it out to more and more people. So that's our first. And the first people to do this are sitting right here, Malik Rashid, Robert Lewis, and Malik, can you speak first? Robert's asked you to speak first. Okay. Okay, so we're going to hear a little bit about their story, and you can see why we selected them as our first facilitators.
Good evening, everybody. How's everybody feeling? Relax a little bit. Y'all look like you're kind of like tight. Just relax a little bit. We're not going to bite you. My name's Malik Rashid. I'm also an ex-offender. I did 37 years in prison, the last time I went to prison. You see me standing here before you today, and I seem like I'm in my right mind, I'm okay. You wouldn't have known that I was probably an ex-inmate. But part of that was because of people like you see sitting here in this panel. People who supported me while I was in prison, people who supported me when I come out of prison. I'm not going to tell you all the details about all the wonderful things I've been able to do and accomplish, because I'm still a work in progress. And partnering up with Arlene and Sharon has really been giving me a sense of how I can, now that I've reached a certain level, I'm still working at it, that I can give back. Because when much is given, much is expected in return. So I just want to share that with you real quick. I don't want to do a long, drawn-out speech, but I really want you to know that it's heartfelt to see so many diverse people here with so many talents, and as Sharon has said, the collaboration, the network, the support that we can give each other. We're all trying to work together to accomplish some things that make our society more livable and more durable. So with all the energy here in the room, with all of you here, we're hoping that tonight can just be the beginning. Okay? Thank you. Longer than that.
No, that's what he said.
I wanted, she put me out there saying I wanted Malik to speak first. I've been up since about 6. I did a training all day from like 8 o'clock to, we started at 9 to 4. And I know Malik always gives me that boost that I need, that extra boost. I was thinking about, the topic of opportunity knocks and, how catchy that is. And I was trying to think back how I met these two, very compassionate, very caring people. It was last summer. We've been at this since last summer. And the woman that introduced me as, being interested in doing groups and working with ex-offenders and doing all of these things. I've done that. I've worked inside the prison. She knew that part. When I told her I had a program, a reentry program, a friend of mine, a partner of mine that we found 2 years ago called Road to Redemption. So when I mentioned that, it was just a bond. It was a place that I said, wait a minute, how do I get enough information? How do I get as much training as possible to help these guys transition from prison? One of our models has always been to be able to safely, my heart is heavy because I used to have to share that because God just put this on my heart just now. The young man that got killed on the bus. I don't know if you guys heard about it. The guy went through my program. He was there all summer. And if it's anybody that reassured me once again about trying to say these guys can change and these guys can do something better with their life, this young man wanted to change. This young man used to come to group and talk about, man, I'm tired. He had got shot just before he went in there, right? So he came out, he met the dude inside, I said, man, I don't want no beef. And he was one of the few guys that didn't get a job for about a couple of months, but he kept coming, and he kept talking about it. And he finally got that job. And he was so happy, and he was so grateful to have that job, to have an opportunity to put down the guns, man, and put all that stuff aside him, you know what I mean? And when I think about how the dude, if you read the paper, and really the story is, the guy said, listen, I don't want no beef, man. And he turned his back. And he walked away, and the dude shot him in the back. You know what I mean? So, man, if that didn't, I've been doing this for a long time, working with, like disadvantaged and disenfranchised and a lot of folks like that, and having the opportunity to add, the training that we can just equip these guys to try to change their life. I think the biggest thing, with this training, because I know guys that can hustle, I know guys that got jobs, and still, if you don't change the criminal mentality, it's never gonna change. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that Sharon, or one of this program, can help do. You know, I just said it's a great opportunity for myself to be able to learn something new and something proven, and also the opportunity. You know, let me say this here. Everything that they're trying to do, or we're trying to do, is about creating something beyond themselves. You know, like I said, the guys have jobs and they still want to hustle. So the opportunity to have their own is enchanting. You know what I mean? These guys want to do it. You know. So I'm just here, you know, as a, you know, like one of the two facilitators to be able to take back, you know, and we're starting a training program where you guys can talk about that. So thanks for having us. You know, and we're gonna do great work. Thanks.
I'm up again. Okay, I'd like to introduce Glynn Lloyd. He's the founder and CEO of City Fresh Food. He's a VU graduate. He has received numerous awards and been on programs such as NPR, CNN, and the magazine Entrepreneur Inc. But the best thing I like is he has a business that's Corey friendly. And so instead of telling you more, because you can move those, I'm going to give him the opportunity to tell us how he works, how it works.
Thank you, Arlene. Is it okay if I sit? Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Keep an eye on my notes. So I actually, this topic is very dear because, to me, because I guess how I promote my company, it's about health. We actually do meals out every day. We feed young to old, and we're trying to get healthy food into our bodies, right? We also look at the community as a whole, and how do we really promote and create healthy communities. And the reason I started City Fresh Foods now back 18 years was because I saw a lot of resources coming into our communities, but who's controlling those resources? And how are we recycling those resources so that we were creating more jobs and wealth in our neighborhood? And when it comes down to it, it's really all about jobs, right? It's how do we get folks into good paying jobs, and I would say the other side of that too is how do we create equity and ownership, right? So, and I love when I hear the word entrepreneur, I love it. I love entrepreneurs, and because it's two from my desk, there's two ways to create jobs in our community. One is workforce development, right? Which is a great approach. It's we have a lot of great companies in the Boston area, and a lot of great industries like the health industry, or the hospital industry, or the tech industry. And how do we get folks prepared to work in those industries, right? Very important. The other way to create jobs is to create entrepreneurs, create local entrepreneurs that can employ our folks, right? And I get a little more excited about that side of the equation. And I think one thing around, if you look at some of the stats of my company, we're a blip. We're a blip. We're $8 million company. We employ about 100 folks, just under 100 folks, which is a good-sized company for the neighborhood, but it's just a blip, essentially. But it gives me a perspective of this topic from an employer point of view. And just quickly, we do Meals on Wheels, so we're delivering meals into elder's homes. And our contract with what we call the ASAPs, and they're the ones who hire us to do the Meals on Wheels, is in terms of Corey, if you fall in a certain category, you cannot be a driver for our company. And I forget, it's ABC list, and then it shows you what the what the Corey level is, and then that's it. You're out of that role. But the interesting about our company, if you work in the kitchen, right? Clearly that there is no Corey restriction from some of our contracts. So when we do summer camps, right? We're working with kids. So it's all these levels, and so I actually play a role in the hiring process of my company, and sometimes they'll come to me, the staff, and we'll be looking through, and and a lot of it comes down to, you know, me just talking to the person. You know, look them in the eye and say, what's up? You know? And because we all need, not just first and second chance, I don't mean third chances, right? We all made mistakes. I don't care who you are, you made a mistake, and so on and so forth. And it's how, you know, and some of my best people have been people just really just honest and said, you know, I screwed up, but this is what I've been doing the last, you know, X amount of years. And I'm ready to, you know, a lot of these guys are coming out and they're, you know, they have kids and they're getting, you know, they're older and they're like, you know, I'm ready. And these are my best employees, I should say. You know, committed, loyal, dedicated, smart, talented, and I don't know why more people aren't doing it, to be honest with you. But as an owner of a company in the community, I have the power to do that, right? And it gets back to entrepreneurship and equity and ownership. So just quickly, actually, if I have a minute here, I do want to just talk about a new venture. But I was actually, I wasn't being rude. I was Wikipedia the prison system, and I just wanted, because I want to get some stats in my head, and just one stat, Wikipedia, you know, in terms of, you know, 70% of the inmates in America are non-white. Right? Just, you know, we cannot talk about prisons and not talk about race, okay, and talk about how it affects our communities. And we have this feedback loop. And the thing that kills me is, it says since 1980, the prison population has quadrupled. And that's directly tied to this craziness about the drug war and 3 strikes and all this other nonsense. And most folks in this room know more than I about that, but I do know it has negatively impacted our people, our families, our community, like down to the bone. And it doesn't have to be that way. And so I think that part of the solution is exactly what Sharon and Arlene are talking about. It's about us taking control, taking the reins, and really trying to create our own opportunities for ourselves. I mean, just you know, straight up how I look at it. So if the food service business wasn't hard enough, right? When I say hard, I'm talking about low margin, you know, high labor, you know, high capital costs, and so on and so forth. Low margin, really tight, really tight, right? We went down the supply stream, and we're looking at doing some urban farming, right? So you know how to really not make a dollar.
Eat well.
Exactly, but these jobs won't be exported anywhere. I can tell you right now. In terms of, you know, interestingly, in the Boston area, we have 800 acres of vacant land, right? And that's, you know, that's a lot of land, even for a high-tech industrial city. And most of that's in communities of color, right? So about 2/3 of that community of color. A lot of vacant land. There's a whole history of the land base, right? A lot of homes being burned down back in the 50s and 60s, people getting out, and there's racial undertones to that, but we won't get into that tonight. So you have all these vacant lots, a lot of them are quarter-acre lots. So living in the community, working in the community, and driving around, saying, "What's this land? What are we gonna do about this land?" And you know, the white picket fence, that's the land that D&D owns. You know, you get these little, you know, you can understand like who owns the land sometimes. And I'm in my kitchen, and that same week, I'm like, we're buying lettuce out of California. Why? Can we grow some of this stuff more local? And I was down on Harold Street in Roxbury, and there's a vacant lot. At the end is a big vacant lot. There's 1.5 acres of vacant land. There's one particular street, just one street, 1.5 acres. So I called up my cousin, and I said, listen, what's up about, because he lived in there, what's up with the land over here? Long story short, we said, listen, can we create urban farms that can create jobs and be viable? This is a few years back. So this is how I got connected with Arlene, you know, the crazy. Says, welcome to the crazy. So we've been, you know, we're looking at that. We've been doing this now for 3 years. Like I tell you, it's been hard. The last year, we actually figured out how to grow pretty intensively. And here's the thing about urban farming, and what we've been growing is a lot of salad mix and head lettuce and stuff like that. But we do the carrots and tomatoes. But the supply, the demand far outstrips the supply for like years to come. People want this stuff, the restaurants and even individuals, so on and so forth. So we this past year, we grew on 4 plots of land, and these are urban plots. We bring the soil in, we grow it, you know, we grow in the soil, and we're growing intensively. And there's a young guy out of Lower Roxbury who matched up with my lead farmer, and there's a team of folks, and they're growing. And we actually grew and sold this stuff to the high-end restaurants, some of the top restaurants around the Boston area. And we were able to bring in $1.84 a square foot. Now, from from an economic point of view, when you look at your square footage, your typical plot's about 10,000 square foot. So you can maybe bring in about $20,000 in like a 22-week season, right? So we're still figuring out, who would be doing this, right? But we see that there could be a direct link with folks who are interested. I mean, I call them food entrepreneurs, and once you start in a business, typically what I found is you don't usually stay in what you started, right? It flows into other things, and really you can make probably more resources when you value added and you can do this other types of transportation and all types of things you can build on it. But I just want to say that we're really excited about seeing what can happen. And I always say around urban farming is, if we in the neighborhood can't figure out urban farming, then forget it, right? So this is going to be an industry that we can have some control over, right? Urban farming. So that's what we're trying to do. And part of that is, you got the land that's available, we talked about, you have the market that's there, and it's about the hands, right? The people doing the work, and how do we, train up folks to get ready for that and really make it a viable industry. So I just want to put that forth, but that's just one of multiple industries we should talk about as a team, and I can go on, but I'll end with this. I've always said it's finding the right ingredients, right, to make the cake, right? So if we're trying to talk about entrepreneurship and creating jobs, and this is MIT. I mean, MIT knows all about that, right? This is the institution where probably it has created the most entrepreneurs in any university, right? For folks, in the back stuff. And so Union University is a platform, but also it's connecting it to the right capital, right? The right brains, and the right opportunities. And there's no reason we should not be putting all that synergy into the communities that are most affected by the prison system. Right, so I challenge all of us to figure out, well, how do we shift some of that resource over to where it really needs to be, so that we have thousands of city freshers in those types of businesses. So we're not an anomaly in this conversation. So I'll end with that.
It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Helen Elaine, professor at MIT, professor of fiction writing and humanist studies. She's an accomplished novelist and is currently expecting to see an essay in the New York Times book review section. She's on the board of directors of PEN, New England, and coaches inmates in prisons in creative writing. Please.
I wish I had something practical like employment and career opportunities or housing or industry to offer. But I'm a storyteller and a writer. I guess stories are kind of food, so there is that. So I'm going to read a piece I wrote, a version of which is going to be in that back page of the book review in the next few months. And it's about teaching creative writing out at Bay State Correctional Center. And it tells the story of my involvement and what's been meaningful about that and what I have perhaps imparted and some of the things I've learned or the ways that it has expanded me. So it's a story for you, I guess. It's called Through the Trap. Can everybody hear me? Mm-hmm. The sliding door to the trap buzzed and clanked and then rumbled open, and the guard within called out, "Come on, you're next." I stood up from the waiting area pews and stepped forward. My bag and cell phone and keys were stowed in a locker, and I had to remove my jewelry, my hair clip, my watch. After signing a huge clipboard with my name, address, and the purpose of my visit, I wrote a firm no. I had never been convicted of a crime. I turned my pockets inside out, took off my shoes, handed over my notebook and papers for examination, and received a volunteer badge and an ultraviolet stamp on my wrist. The metal detector beeped as I walked through it, and I had to wait for a female guard to give me a private wand search. She ushered me into a dusty little room where my signature in a logbook and a tape recorder documented my consent to be searched. Never meeting my eyes, she had me pull my brow away from my rib cage and the top of my pants away from my waist to make sure they were free of contraband. I held out my arms to be wanded, turned around, showed the bottoms of my feet, and was allowed to return to the trap. It was my first solo visit to the Bay State Correctional Center 11 years ago to teach a creative writing workshop. I waited to emerge from the trap into the open air and walk through a gate in the razor-wired fence to join a group of men who had been gathering every Saturday for years to attend an educational program focused on emotional literacy. Unnerved by the detached, blank authority of the guards, I said as little as possible. I tried to be polite, aloof, and dignified, but I was tense. I had grown up knowing for certain that law enforcement and the criminal justice system seldom functioned on behalf of my people. How hard was it for a black person like me to cross over to the wrong side of the law? Surely, even with my Ivy League degrees, I could misstep. Surely I was violating something somehow. For some of the guards, my willingness to be there made me guilty by association. But guilty of what? Being against law and order, being a romantic idealist, being black. I was uneasy, and about the men I had come to see, I had plenty of questions too. Would they respond to the exercise I had chosen? Would I know what to say about what they wrote? Would they come on to me? Would they relate to me? Would I manage to connect? I was anxious, but I had come to learn about prison life for the novel I had just begun to conceive. I needed to earn the story I would try to write. My personal connection to this world in which I was seeking to root my novel had been fostered way back by my father, whose life work as a criminal defense attorney taught me early on that people's stories are complicated, that many of us grow up without love or opportunity or choices, that justice is a fiction for some of us, and we are all human and deserve to be seen. While my mother gave me literature to see by, my father showed me some things for which I might fight. Both of them urged me to be passionate and engaged in whatever I chose, to be fully in. When I first went to Bay State, my father had been dead for 10 years, but the concern he had planted in me about the lives of prisoners lived on. I was going through the trap from a world which prefers to forget the incarcerated to a place where people are warehoused, bringing human regard and free world news. The lives of the men who awaited my visit were defined by deprivation and confinement. During incarceration, they experienced a constricted reality I could barely imagine, and even after release, they would be consigned to a growing underclass which is stranded on a far shore, prevented from participating in American society by bars to employment, public housing, public assistance, educational loans, and in some states, voting. These men fill the prisons and jails which comprise the ultimate other, invisible America, where over 2.3 million people try to survive with some measure of humanity and dignity, and maybe with the help of scarce education and programming to reclaim their lives and grow. That first visit went smoothly. The men were respectful and warm, and I relaxed once I reached the bare white room where they were waiting. They were forthcoming and thoughtful with the writing exercise I brought, and I was overwhelmed by the distilled and revelatory nature of our discussion. 3 hours after my arrival, when the PA system blared the announcement that it was time for movement, I shook their hands, said goodbye, and stood outdoors, ringing the doorbell on the razor-wired fence to signal that I was ready to leave. I was both exhilarated and eager to make my passage back through the trap without incident. That night I couldn't sleep. It took me days to make a place for that experience within the spin of my everyday life. I have been to Bay State numerous times since that trip 11 years ago. Each time I am relieved as I make it inside and relieved as I pass back through the layers of security at the end of my visit. I remain touched and unsettled by the suffering expressed in the stories of the men I have come to know and by their naked, urgent effort to be seen, if only fleetingly. Their memories of childhood and growing up testify to the disparate advantages and opportunities of American life, and to the nearly unspeakable things that people can endure. After some visits, I find myself mute, too overcome with my trip to the barren place where so many brothers live to bear witness with words. But I admit that over the years, the experience has grown easier to shed, and I'm disturbed by this as well. The visits begin with a welcoming, as the men stand from the schoolroom chairs they have pulled into a circle and thank me for coming. They hurry to get me tea or instant coffee and animal crackers for which they have chipped in from their meager earnings, which range from 50 cents to $5 a day. They pass around a Ziploc bag of what my grandmother called penny candy, caramel squares, peppermint wheels, root beer barrels, atomic fireballs. Take a minute to breathe, the men urge me. How's your mom's, your son? After we have settled in, we go around the circle for a formal check-in. I had a good week. I had a visit, I moved my cell. It's been a rough time. I worked on my garden plot, and the peppers are coming in good this year. I worked on my appeal. Around the circle we go, each one getting the chance to tell his mostly mundane news, which for a moment matters. And with that, I'm in, each one finishes up, conveying his commitment to the group's efforts while passing the focus to the next man. After everyone has had a chance to speak, we transition with meditation to our afternoon's work of remembering and considering. Close your eyes, one of them says, and picture yourself in a green meadow, feeling the sun, the grass, the summer breeze. He conjures an alternate reality, and we sit still and quiet, banishing the wasteland of prison and choosing color, life, peace. And when we have returned from our imagined freedoms, they ask what writing exercise I've got for them this time. I offer up my exercise, careful to give the option of writing through a character or opting out should the territory prove too painful to revisit. Write about a toy or game you played with as a child, revealing something important about your experience. They write and they tell. One speaks about the Lone Ranger and Tonto riding his bedspread as he enacted dramas of power and race. Another remembers the toy backhoe that was a miniature version of the one his father drove on a chain gang down south. One recalls the checkers games he played with his grandma as she schooled him about hardscrabble life. And one seems almost free again as he tells about riding his yellow bicycle with the banana seat into the wind, away from the safety and constraints of home. Write about when you ceased to be a child. Each man marks this passage differently. One was claimed at 12 by the streets when one parent succumbed to mental illness and the other disappeared. Another left behind his boyhood at 13 when the only way to fulfill the charge as eldest to bring home the items on his mother's grocery list was to switch supermarket price tags. Some were initiated by drinking or sex, and some tie the shift from childhood to the rights to drive or vote. For one, the lynching of an uncle marked the move from boy to man. Write about your neighborhood. Write about the stories you were told, a family journey, an act of generosity. Capture a memory through the sense of taste. Take us step by step through something you do well. Define masculinity. Write about a time when you were lost. Their possessions and their freedoms are few, but there is abundance in memory. And for 3 charged hours, through their writing and their telling, they are visible. They are more than their worst things. Together, they excavate something useful. Home, a reference point, a goodness that was sown, a point at which they lost their ways. Sometimes they discover something to draw on in a world defined by absence, where they struggle for somewhere to lean amidst the pain and loss they have both suffered and caused. We talk about what they've written, pushing further on meaning, looking at social forces, coaxing out detail, and giving an amen. They express their thoughts and memories, probing for what matters, showing compassion, owning responsibility. If they ask how I have answered my exercise, I share my recollections too. It is a writer's dream, going to the heart of things, peeling back the layers, and I'm consistently amazed at the brief access I am given to the inner lives of men. Early on, I struggled to reconcile what I knew about their crimes with what I was experiencing. How could it be, I wondered, that the man who sat beside me showing fellowship and kindness caused that harm? Many are casualties of the costly, unjust, and failed war on drugs, and addiction lies festering at the root of countless crimes. And surely some within the circle are innocent. Recent advances of science and dogged advocacy tell us that this is so. But I try to hold before me the truth that many of them have offended, while believing also in the best selves that I see them bring forth. For the brotherhood and honesty and generosity I have seen at work in that room are true as well. We are all of us masses of contending things, and the forces which bring us to our present lives are tangled and complex. Each of our stories contains both wrongdoing and grace. It is not my job to unravel the skein of their guilt, to judge or absolve. I am here as a witness. I am here in the name of story and its power to transform. When we're done with the telling and the listening, with the Lone Ranger and with bicycles tearing free, with all the things that grow us up and haunt us, we prepare to wrap up. Nearly 3 hours have passed, and it's almost time for me to leave. We go around the circle to check out, each person stating, according to the group's custom, a feeling and a blessing. Today I feel good, one says. You got me to remembering some things. You made me laugh, Helen. You made me think. I'm grateful you took this time to come, another says softly, when you could be out in the summer sunshine. I hope you get your papers corrected. I hope your mom feels better soon. I hope you get home safe. And say goodbye until next time. And soon I'm standing at the razored fence, ringing for the gate to open while they return to their cells and no doubt work at resuming their hard postures and concealing what we have just urged out into the light. What is home for them, I wonder, and what kind of safe return is possible? Someone comes to open the gate and I re-enter the trap, show my ultraviolet stamp, surrender my volunteer ID, walk through the clanking door back into the waiting room, and get my belongings from the locker. I head home. Years ago, I finished the novel about prison, which first inspired me to volunteer inside, but I still go to Bay State, both to see the men I've come to know over the years and to teach creative writing with a program I helped to start through a writers' organization. With their urgency and gratitude, the men compel me that they are more than just a writer's dream of lies laid bare. Something large happens as we write and talk together in that room, separated by the trap and razor wire from the rest of the world. I too get to bring forth my best self, the compassionate, awake, believing me. Far too often I half listen to my mother, my friend, my colleague, already on to the next errand, the next task, the next place I need to be, too busy to extend myself, too pressed to pay attention, too jaded to notice the positive. I fail to see the woman who has dry cleaned my clothes or sold me my coffee, the man who pumps my gas or stamps my parking ticket. I fail to wonder at the past internal life of the woman who makes her way slowly across the street on her walker, or to imagine the private yearnings of the man-child with the snapback hat and sag pants who slouches by the doorway of the subway train. With all the disconnection, discourtesy, and relentless motion of the free world, it can be awfully hard to recognize, let alone love, your fellow human beings. A feeling and a blessing. I hope you know the power of your words and stories I would like to tell the men who have revealed their youthful toys and games, relived their crossings into manhood, and shared so much more. Your humanity has been visible to me, I am saying to you here on this page, and I see that you are more than your worst things. I hope you get home safe. And with that, I'm in.
Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. And now it's open for Q&A. So, would anyone like to start with any questions for the panelists? Or to make comments yourself?
Yeah, my name is James Crawford. And in reading this opportunity knocking program, one of the things, I'm an ex-offender myself, one of the things that really struck me and has stayed home with me in just reading this is your core identity and values. And creating, I was talking to Mike earlier, and I think more so creating that while people are incarcerated, a safe place to do that. You said something that really, as I'm thinking is, then you said they conceal themselves and they go back. In other words, that natural, true person, that humanity, that human being that they have in their core that they share with you, they have to transform that and go back out and live in a world that it takes being different than what they share with you in order to survive. So while we're thinking about also reentry, think about also creating a safe haven within institutions that they can live out that humanity, that they can bring that back out with them because they have developed it while incarcerated.
one of the things, we want to make sure that we are careful to not rip off the Band-Aid when we start the work together. I mean, people need the protections that they developed, and they're in the habits of protection. And so we want to make this a gentle process of revealing the identity, their gifts, which people don't recognize. My best paid people don't necessarily recognize the gifts they have. So this is a process that we do slowly and gently, and that people help each other with. But we don't want to take their protections away from them right away.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting to trying to create or look at, I mean, and I'm saying this to the whole room, a place in incarceration, because when people transform, and I'm telling you this from my own personal experience, when you come out in the world, you connect to people who may inhibit you from doing that. So if you gain that grasp of being able to do it inside the institution, meaning you're gonna first have to have a safe place to do it inside the institution, but if you perfected that ability to do it and survive, you'll transform a lot easier doing it when you're outside.
I'd like to comment that Nelson Mandela, before he became president, 3 years he lived with the sheriff, with the warden. So he had that period of transition. And when he, the house that he built was exactly the same design as the house that he lived in with the warden. So that was a way of helping him transition from inside to outside. So what you're saying is true, and this is something that we can push toward, is that making the prison system more humane, because it's good for the guards who tend to, or the correctional officers, who tend to die at an earlier age, at the age of 54, and have a higher divorce rate. And they're also, and their children wind up often being more incarcerated than the general public. And there's a higher suicide rate. So it would be good for all of us if we could figure out a way to make the transition, make the place, the setting better, and the transition more smooth.
I also think one of the points you're making that's important is that once you're out, there need to be this, safe places like this too. So, I helped start this program inside, but the truth is we need programs like that on the outside. I know there are programs that are support groups, and but there is something about making art or writing, about raising your voice in that way that really is healing and transformative. And so, there's a real need. I don't think I'm the woman to do it, but
you're doing it. You are the woman doing it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to start a program on the, I don't know, whether through the Friends Service or something like that, a program on the outside that's a creative,
sharing circle.
Art, that's about making art and being able to express yourself in that way. And then the part of what happens in that room, or in my classroom at MIT or anywhere people are sharing their writing and workshopping their writing, is there is this bond, this trust that builds up, and so that it can be that that place to lean on the outside too.
Yeah, so Ali from the Boston Workers Alliance. I just want to really piggyback on what he's saying and try to say that in prison, mentally, psychologically, and emotionally, you cannot go in administration and tell them that you're mad as hell and still get out of prison. So until you can deal with the truth within yourself, then you'll always be fooling yourself when you get out. Because you're going to come out into a place where you came from a place where you had to lie all the time about what's going on with you mentally and emotionally just to get out. And now you're out. That's where the game comes in, because you still think your game is you're out here where people ain't never been in prison. You're out here with people that disdain prison. And you're still thinking that your game that you worked on the classification board to get out still got some validity. The problems that we have until we fix them inside prison, you're going to have liars coming out, and you have liars going back. And until, we have people like the brother sitting here, with City Fresh. You got the brother Malik and the brother, and the brother back here sitting back, and myself.
because we did do something different. But the mass majority of us think that we can still continue to live a false life, a false mentality, because that's what you need to have to get out. Because you ain't gonna tell nobody, I'm mad as hell. I wanna, like light up the whole place, because I'm mad. Not because I would really do it, but because I'm mad. Because I'm in prison. Because I can't get nothing, I don't have nothing. My family, I can't go live with my family. When I get out, where am I gonna go live? These are the things that need to be dealt with honestly in prison. And how do you do that when you know you have to lie to get out?
I first want to apologize because I would have run off the class earlier. But I wanted to ask, for somebody who, I'm young and haven't seen some of the world and I haven't been inside prison, and so I'm worried. I'm very interested in doing work in this area, but worried that I might make some assumption, screw something up, and seriously offend somebody. What are some things I could read, or some ways to really learn to be better, to better understanding of what it's like to be in prison?
Yeah, you got some new friends, right? Possibility? Yeah. Some new friends, yeah. And this is what we're trying to do, is learn from the people who can teach us how to teach people right, yeah.
I have never been to prison and I don't profess to know anything about it, but what I am beginning to understand, I have a young son who will be 18 years old on St. Patrick's Day. And what I have realized is my husband and I moved to Milton so that we could have a better life for our children. And, we lived in Boston, and we didn't want the guns and the omnibuses and the whole, we loved Roxbury, but we didn't want to raise a family. But what I feel is you're asking what you might do to be sensitive, and I just, in our everyday life, we're not sensitive to each other. We're not. My son has gone through Milton High School, through the whole school system. We started him in this great French immersion program that has these values that are supposedly higher than everyone else and supposedly puts them on this track. But what essentially happens to many of the young black boys is what happens in Roxbury and everywhere else, is that in everyday society they're isolated. You walk into any of the better firms in the United States and you'll see few number of black men and even less Hispanic men. You will see, and that's somehow in the school systems. You mentioned you work with the schools. In the school systems, I don't want to be paranoid to say it's by design, but certainly I have sat in classrooms to observe what happened. Why was my son failing? What was going on? And there is the way that the teachers talk to the students right from the very start puts them on this path that they are nothing. And they're humiliated in front of the classroom. And the next thing you know, my son hasn't been in big trouble, but the next thing you know, these black boys in Milton are on this path to nothingness. Milton has been listed as one of the second best communities in the nation to live in, and now the black boys sliding into this nothingness. They're failing the classes, the education is poor, they don't participate in the sports, they don't participate, there's a whole world of things for them to partake in and participate in, but they're on this rail of nothingness. And so it's just a matter of time before they're in the prison system. And there has to be something. It cannot just be by mistake. There must be something in design with these numbers. And it's in everyday life outside here where we have the power
to include black males in society, to bring them into the fold, to bring them into our everyday life, to not end up there in the first place. And so I feel as though my son is a prisoner, because I feel like if we don't stay on him literally daily, I didn't even want to come here because he's not doing his homework, I know it when I get home, you know, and so it's literally a daily struggle to keep him on the straight, a daily struggle, and so something happens at a very young age. I don't want to take much time, but that's something that should.
I think maybe we would have the whole panel address this. One of the thing when you were talking initially was that when we did this program in the schools, we had a very surprising result we did not anticipate. And that is that we had the students very randomly thrown into what would be called study groups or homeroom groups. And that was their advisory group. And so they were randomly put in terms of gender and race. One of the things that stunned us was that these students became a small family, and they had each other's back across race and gender. We didn't plan on that, but it's something that happened when they had honest conversations, when telling their stories to each other, and were allowed to be in a safe place where they could be fully human. What is it that you want to do with your life? What are the gifts that you bring? I mean, those kinds of conversations make us very human. So that doesn't deal with the institutional issue, but it was a little crack in the pavement that we saw.
Well, I'm just going to speak to the question that has left now, but what could one read? Maybe there is a lot of literature, both fiction and nonfiction. Maybe that could be part of the website.
Yes.
Be a reading list. You could contribute.
Hi, I'm Jess Rose. I guess I have a comment and a question, if you'll indulge me. I think being in a room with such diverse people, all inspired and interested in creating solutions, I think is really powerful. And so I'm always moved when I'm kind of surrounded by this. I would say that for me, I mean, you just gave a shining example of the power of language. And I would encourage us all, particularly as we ask people to reset and reframe who they are as people, to both in conversation and print, begin to identify them as people first. It is more cumbersome to say people who have been incarcerated, but it is far more powerful than saying ex-offender or ex-prisoner. So that's my comment right there.
That's great.
So my question is more about how you came up with some of the sectors that you're encouraging either business growth or opportunity for people coming home from prison. You mentioned food truck construction and landscaping, there's urban farming, and I'm wondering if this is kind of bubbling up from participants in your program, or if you're looking at labor statistics and career growth opportunities. How is that happening?
City Committee of Friends and Relatives of Prisoners, they have like 800 members, and we don't see all 800, but people who I used as a sounding board, what would you want to do? What businesses are you interested in? I actually was interested in the supermarket. It took a nosedive. I couldn't sell it at all. But they were interested in auto repair, landscaping, having a diner. These are things that they felt were missing in their community, and things that they were interested in doing. They felt that they would have support carrying it out.
Just a
Can I say a little bit of that? And these are some of the industries also that they kind of, in prison, a lot of the culinary arts, a lot of the catering, a lot of, using your hands. So this is a sort of like an easier transition for them. I just want to talk to, this woman's Patrice's comment, because I had this conversation. I remember growing up, we grew up in Heath Street projects. And, I can think of 3 fathers that was in the whole project. And I remember the stigma, man, making me feel bad that my father was home. You know, you had a dad at home, right? You know, so I had to do, you know, I consumed myself. But, you know, I think the negative pull is so much now with these young men. I was talking from a guy from Charlestown. Anybody know Charlestown? And he was talking about how he lived right across the street from the project. His father worked 3 jobs. And all the project kids thought he had it made, right? First of all, he never seen his father. His father died at an early age. And he thought just because they lived in the house across the street from the project, everything was right. They had 9 brothers and sisters. And I knew he threw a little flavor into that. He said, man, on Tuesday, he got to go out. And on Wednesday, his brother had to go out because he had to borrow his shoes. I only say that to say that, you know, that we need to create, you know, more opportunities. You know, I also I have a youth program that was celebrating 10 years. And one of the things that we talk about more than anything, how do you build someone up? You know, I heard this phrase, it's easier to build children than to repair men. And I had to ponder that, and it's true. And we have to be able to just at the core, and I see that a lot.
Okay, one more question, we have to leave at 8:30, so.
Lina, how long do we have now? Okay, but we're going to close the discussion because I know some people have schedules to get to, but those who do need to leave at 8:30, do so, and we'll still be available for questions.
I wanted to say, City Fresh Foods, in 1997, I was actually in a little bit of trouble, and I had got into a few little run-ins, and the probation officer had called Glynn, and Glynn took the opportunity to actually interview me. And the interview he gave me in 97, I want to say it saved and it prolonged my life. Because he brought me in, he looked me over, and he kind of gave me this look like, are you going to be a problem? And because I'm trying to run a business here, and it's young. And I remember when I think it was City Fresh was about 3, maybe 4 years in existence, and we were actually working, he hired me as administrative assistant. I was working out of his Fields Corner office, and I was doing the Meals on Wheels. And I remember he gave me the opportunity in the office by myself. And I never had that opportunity before. To prove, but also show what I was worth, and to maintain and keep my job. And it gave me a sense of pride, and it gave me a sense of self-worth and identity that wasn't necessarily there before, because no black man had gave me the opportunity to say, you know what, I believe in you, and I'm gonna leave you by yourself to prove who you are in this title, in this space. And I'll never forget that, and he moved me from the office down to the cafe, and he moved me to the kitchen, and I just want to say, like, if you want to talk about living proof and people in the neighborhood, helping ex-offenders, helping, like, youth and young adults on the verge, Glynn did it. He seen the opportunity to say, no, I'm going to get us to the kids. I know he's kind of, you know, he's 1 foot in the streets, 1 foot in reality, and I'll never forget, he was like, you know what, I'm going to hire you. He hired me, and I'll never forget, because I never had the opportunity to be an administrative assistant, and to know what it is, to work, the brains and the admin business behind a business, how it worked. You know, I was just looking at, oh, it's a business. I didn't know it was phone calls and faxes and emails and documents and all kinds of stuff happening all day, and you could never just sit around and look out the window. I remember that because it made me who I am now. I know what responsibility is. I know what time management is. I know how to be disciplined. I know how to get up. I know how to do the necessary things to move work along. And I would have never had that chance if you didn't say, you know what, I'm going to open that space and give it to you. So I want to, first of all, I want to thank you for that. And the second of all, I want to say, if you want to talk about ex-offenders, organizations that really work and really impact the neighborhood, City Fresh Foods, I'm a testament to it. I'm sitting here now as an organizing director, and I've been working in the community for the past 5 years. and I got my start as administrative assistant working with Glynn, Lloyd.
There's one part of the story you left out, I think, because if you remember, you went from being an administrative assistant to running your own cart, if I recall. So we said, this brother, the way he just talked right now, he needs to be out doing some sales. That cart at Rock's Cup, if I recall, and that was your little shop, and you were doing the P&L and what have you, so. That's the full around entrepreneurship, right? So, credit to you, too. It takes the person to do it also.
Yeah, my name's Kevin Thomas. I call myself the Big Motivator. And the reason I do that is because we need individuals within the prison system, in particular, who have the reality that they have within the system, who either experience some of the tragedies of not having fathers growing up in communities, losing presidents and being shocked around loss of hope and belief in things that are possible. You know, many of the people that are in prison, men and women across the 18 Massachusetts correctional institutions and the 94 federal districts, once in prison, many of them get an opportunity to make a change, but without having an example or some kinds of words and structures that include the inclusion of men and women who've been out and went back and said, this is what I need to do. Because many people forget, once they leave prison, they tell their dudes and their men, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna see you. I'm gonna send you some mail, and it never happens. See, in prison, the most important part of the day is mail, because you have no other connection. I tell people, mail yourself a letter. Maybe you need to send yourself a letter saying you need to do more about what the things that you're not doing. Maybe write about City Fresh and these other programs. But entrepreneurship is in the prison, just like the book when you mentioned that. Many of them have stories. I tell them, write your story. Go on the other side of the fence with your reality. People don't know who you are. They can't help you because they never heard your story before. Wilbert Rideau, who served 48 years in Angola, wrote a book, and as a result of that, federal criminal defenders came and began to work on his case, and now he's out. I had presented with him in Louisiana, and he talked to the fact that it was the Angolite, which was a newsletter that got resurrected. So through the power of words, we're able to develop our ability. And the creation of the thought process that go into men coming out of prison, coming into the community, has to be faced consistently with men and women who stand before them, who come from their reality and said there's hope out there, there's possibility. That's the reality that we all face every day when we walk out of our house. We need examples like the 4-minute mile so that we can begin to believe that we all can achieve some of the great successes that the men and women who have left prison have done, including the youth that are facing prison on a regular basis. And if you don't follow that and you don't understand this process, then all of the work that we do in the end will end up not having as much support, because you need to get them in the prison. There has to be 2 levels of it. We have to have that part of this program going forward, or you'll only have the part where we got people who can get jobs, who will stand out there but won't retain them. Retention has been proven. Unemployment is the key. That will change it. The recidivism rate in the Eastern District of Missouri proved that, where they were able to have the unemployment rate of the city rate of unemployment. And these were ex-offenders. But they included a process of a leader. It has to start at the court, the U.S. District Court judge or the chief judge that says, this is what I want my chief of probation to do. To support my people under supervision and those that are under federal and state probation in developing their ability, either through care courts or through restart courts, offering them opportunities and putting individuals in front of them. I work in the U.S. District Court every Wednesday for an MRT program, which you understand is cognitive behavior. You have to be able to develop their ability to understand how to make those kinds of changes and those processes of decision making, or they will not be able to retain these wonderful jobs and follow through on these great opportunities and these poster child kind of examples that we're talking about here. It's all well and good, but if I can stand in front of the largest U.S. District Court in the nation and be sworn in as a judicial employee, and we can be here at MIT, it's clear evidence that there's high levels of success available to all individuals who exit prison.
That's right.
Thank you.
I'd like to know, what would you like us to do to make a difference? You have a question number 8. How can I case engage funders on supporting efforts to effectively reduce recidivism? Okay. What are the efforts? We have City Fresh Foods, support City Fresh Foods. We have the Boston Workers Alliance, support the Boston Workers Alliance. What else?
We have the names of each one of the panelists on the on your handout. You can contact us and have discussions. You've met many of the people in the room, and you have you see some of the great things that are going there. So one of the things we wanted to do tonight was to make these connections, letting people know about Opportunity Knocking's efforts would be very, very helpful. We have a community that we're developing, and we'd love to have you be part of it.
Well, one of the things that's on the agenda for Committee of Friends and Relatives of Prisoners telephone issue. That the telephone calls that prisoners receive and make are excessively high in Massachusetts. And in New York State, they have eliminated that so that it's 5 cents a call versus $1 a call. I mean, it's like off the chart. And there is actually like they get a commission because they charge so much. So if you would either contact me through the internet or through city, through core learning services, I can make sure that you get envelopes, postcards that you can send saying, please address the issue of overcharging ex-prisoners, because the contact with the family helps them stay on the straight and narrow. And when the family is paying, has to decide whether they're going to pay for food or they're going to pay for the telephone call, it's not necessary, and it's correctable. And several states have decided that it's unjust and they're not doing it that way. So if you could put pressure on Massachusetts, that would be something very concrete that you could do.
And you will probably find that there are many little issues like this that you can address because of your specific skills and interests, but be in touch.
Yeah, I mean, supporting existing coverage of the city fresh is one conversation that I'm willing to have. But another conversation is when we started City Growers, which was a for-profit urban farming initiative, essentially about 3 years ago, we realized that we weren't just starting a company. We formed a for-profit to do it, but really we're trying to start a new industry. And what happened was we realized that we needed to build infrastructure around this new industry. So we recently created what we're calling the Urban Farming Institute, which is a nonprofit. So if folks are interested in that particular angle around how we build up, because there's all these other benefits that come out of urban farming clearly. It's really about jobs, but it's about the environment, it's about healthy food and all these other positive pieces. There's opportunity there. Well, city growers to invest in also with the nonprofit urban farming.
You can hire a community organizer to help connect the dots.
You heard it here. If you volunteer, you will be helping, yes.
Yes, so Father Hesper, once I was on the board of trustees, and Father Hesper, I asked him, why was I here? Because at the meeting, people were giving $6 million, $12 million, and I just didn't fit in. He said, some people come for work, are hired for work in the boards, wisdom, or wealth. So figure out what you can do, what category you'd like to put in this effort, and we'll gratefully accept it. Thank you.